Welcome to Love and Abuse, the show about navigating the difficult relationship. From simple disagreements to emotionally abusive behaviors, you deserve respect and kindness. All the information on this show is meant for educational purposes only. Always seek a professional for your mental health and well-being, and always pick your battles wisely. I'm your host, Paul Coliani. I want to start this episode by reminding you, actually this may be the gist of the whole episode, I want to remind you that enforcing your personal boundaries, what you will and won't accept in your life, that's how I define personal boundaries. Enforcing those is self-nurturing behavior. When you do something for yourself, it's self-nurturing. I hear from a lot of people that tell me, I don't want to hurt the other person. I don't want to be selfish by doing something that I need to do for myself. So I'm not sure how to go about it without feeling guilty, without hurting them. And the very first thought I have when I read something like that or hear somebody say that is, you need to be okay nurturing yourself, because how long has it been? How long has it been since you've nurtured yourself without the feelings of guilt or worry or being stressed about it? Why wouldn't anyone support you nurturing yourself? That's the first thought that comes to my mind. Why wouldn't anyone who loves you support you nurturing yourself? If my partner wanted to go to a plant sale because she loves those, if she wanted to go to a plant sale and I felt like she was abandoning me, this is the old me, I'm talking about me a long time ago, but this is who I was back then. I felt like I was being abandoned. You're going without me? You're going to do something for you and not with me? Why not just do something together? That was my thought back then. In a healthy relationship, doing things together is fun. It's inviting, it's welcoming, it's just something that you do. There's no toxicity in there. There's no weird thoughts or possessiveness or jealous or fears. It's just a decision that you can make as a couple or as two people doing something that you might enjoy together. But back when I was not the same person I am today, her going somewhere without me, it triggered my fears of rejection and abandonment. And so I became triggered thinking that she was doing something on her own, which means if she enjoys too much time on her own, she'll realize that she's happier without me. And if she's happier without me, then the chain of events that occurred after that would be her eventually leaving me. That was my mindset back then. But that's important to know, because there are clingy, possessive, and sometimes jealous people out there that will want you to do something with them or want to do something with you a lot. Sometimes all the time. They are clingy, needy, possessive, and other dysfunctional qualities that would definitely affect a relationship and take away your autonomy, take away your, not only your desire for independence, but your need and your right to independence, to be by yourself. Sometimes, at least. You have a right and you deserve to have time to yourself. And not only that, you need it. You need time to yourself. You need decompression time. You need time to unplug. Not necessarily from electronics, but that too, but unplug from the people that you're plugged into and that are plugged into you. You need time away from them, because it's like when you go to sleep at night, your brain unplugs from reality and starts to dream or just rest. it's a reset process. It's the way the body and mind reset and regenerate. It's a re-energizing for the next day. Alone time can be a re-energizing for the next time you're together or the next time you do something like work. Imagine being at work 23 and a half hours a day. I hope that's not you, but most people aren't at work all that time. Some relationships are that way. I'm with them all the time. Where's your alone time? Do you get alone time? And when you're alone, do you feel alone in a good, healthy, self-nurturing way? Because you deserve it. You have a right to it. You deserve that autonomy. You deserve to feel like you can be yourself by yourself. And this stems from a message that I received that somebody said, I don't like being pushed into the role of being selfish and making decisions alone. They're talking about a relationship they're in, and that person's planning to exit the relationship. They realized they were being manipulated, and they realized they were even enabling abusive behavior, and now they want to leave. But I don't want to be pushed into the role of being selfish. When I read that, that was the first thought that came to mind. It's not selfish to want to take care of yourself. It's not selfish to want to have time to yourself or even leave something that is no longer serving either of you. It's not selfish. It's self-nurturing, but we label it selfish and we feel guilty and we feel stressed because we know that the other person is going to have a trigger moment or fear or sadness or wherever they go. But they also have to practice self-nurturing behaviors as well. You can't be responsible for somebody else's thoughts or emotions or feelings. You can try. And I know a lot of people who listen to the show do try. But you can't be responsible for those things because you aren't your loved one's therapist. You aren't your loved one's coach. You aren't your loved one's mentor. We all show up in that way in some ways, yes. We all show up in ways to help others, certain people. And the closest people in our lives, we try to help. We try to help them find their happiness. Absolutely. Most people that listen to the show, I think, want the other person to find happiness. So we try to help. But we can only go so far. We can only do so much. But we can't show up in the capacity that some people need. Some people need way more than what a partner or family member can offer. We can be their friend. We can try to ask questions and walk them through things. There are issues that my partner has that, as good as I think I am, there's no way I can help her with. I'm heavily involved in her life, so that automatically makes me not unqualified, but too close. She has a trigger that still bothers her to this day. Ever since I met her, it has bothered her. And we've talked about it. I've tried my best to help her out as a non-judgmental, non-biased person. And I've been able to help her with a lot of stuff. If she asks, I'll help. If she doesn't ask, I stay away until she wants to talk about it. And we talk about a lot of stuff. But there are certain issues that I have to step back and realize I can't help her with it. And who knows why? It could be I'm involved somehow, not because it's me personally, but maybe it's because she has a trigger about previous relationships and I'm in a relationship with her. So that may automatically make me unqualified because I am the person she's in a relationship with. So that is something I have to bow out of unless she wants to bring it up and talk about it, which of course I'm happy to. but I have to also accept that I can't help. There are some things I can't help her with, and I have to be okay with that. And the reason I share that, the reason I tell you that, is because we can't always show up for the people in our lives, the people we love, in a way that helps them. And because of that, we have to be okay stepping back, stepping out of the situation and saying, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that, but maybe somebody else can. And maybe you don't use those words, but don't feel like it's an obligation that you have to help. Don't feel like you need to take those steps to help them. You're not their therapist. You're not their coach. Even if you are a therapist or a coach or any kind of mentor, you might just have to take a step back and realize that you can't handle every problem they have. You can't handle every challenge they have, even if the challenge is with you. Sometimes you can't handle it. Sometimes you do not qualify to be the person that handles the problems. And I'm talking to the people pleasers out there especially, but I'm talking to a lot of people, talking to you maybe, that might believe that you should be able to handle everything, that you should be the one, you have to be the one to take care of them, to make them happy, to help them feel better. And sometimes you can't do that. And you have to be okay in yourself that you can't do that, because sometimes you're too close. Sometimes you're within the same toxicity that they're in. Sometimes you're in that toxic thinking that they're in, or the unhealthy or confused state that they're in. Sometimes you just don't know enough because you're too close. It's being the observer from outside or the inside. When you're the observer on the inside, then you are a part of the equation that you have to solve. When you're an observer from the outside, where you're not so emotionally connected and so committed in so many ways, then you might have a different, or you will have a different perspective because you're not a part of it. And believe me, I pride myself on being able to disconnect emotionally and be able to help my partner and other people I love. But I have to admit that I can sometimes be too close to something, and I have to step back and realize that that person does need to self-nurture. That might mean they need to seek help, a professional or a best friend or somebody else that can ask them questions that I may not have thought to ask, or maybe I shouldn't ask. But it's important to know not only your limits, not that you aren't capable of helping somebody else or helping them feel better, but also that it's not always beneficial to the relationship or the other person. And the reason is because we have triggers. They trigger us, you trigger them. And because we trigger each other in different ways, then it's difficult to be on equal footing. Let's put it that way. In a healthy relationship, you can do this. Like I said, there are times when we need each other's help and we can bounce things off each other. But in a relationship that I guess requires this show and other information and advice, if you're listening to this, you're probably not in the kind of relationship where it's easy to talk back and forth and bounce things off each other and go through deeper discussions and not worry about getting triggered or not worrying about triggering them, because there's a mutual trust and respect for each other. When there's mutual trust and respect, you can talk about anything. You can talk about almost anything. And when that happens, you can take time to yourself. You can self-nurture, and there won't be a question of abandonment or fears or what are you doing by yourself or why are you going without me? There will be no question like that. It'll be enjoy your time. Get the most out of it you can. That's the healthy relationship response. I hope you have a great time. I really look forward to seeing you when you get back. I hope you enjoy yourself. So that's what happens when you support someone else's happiness. And people that abuse, they're emotionally abusive, they're not necessarily on the bandwagon of supporting the other person's happiness because they're either in survival mode, or they're controlling and manipulative and they know it, or they're unconscious about it, but they don't know how to stop doing it because they have all these terrible coping mechanisms that they learned from childhood. And so they get triggered and they do bad behaviors or hurtful behaviors, all to protect themselves and keep what they believe is harm coming into their life. I know that may sound strange, but some people abuse, or many people abuse, to keep harm from coming in their life, what they define and perceive as harm. And so in this example, if you go out and enjoy yourself, that might feel harmful to them because it might trigger their fears of abandonment and rejection. And some people aren't like that. Some people don't fall into that category. Some people aren't possessive and jealous. They're just hurtful or controlling or manipulative, and they're not necessarily possessive and jealous and all that. But there are many people that I've talked to that are very clingy and needy and sometimes desperate to hang on to something or hang on to the person they're with so tightly that it basically squeezes the energy out of the other person. And I do my best to help them see what that does when you hold on to something so tight that they can barely breathe. And even if the person's not clingy or possessive or jealous, it still has the same effect. Control and manipulation, anything that qualifies as emotionally abusive behavior, it still has the same effect. Your energy gets drained, your power gets drained, and it does feel emotionally suffocating. And the longer you're in that relationship or a relationship like that, the more you can feel that tight grip that is emotionally suffocating you. It's a terrible way to put it, but it probably fits for a lot of people, unfortunately, to have somebody so controlling that you do lose that autonomy and that sense of independence, something that we all deserve, we all have a right to, and that you should never feel guilty taking advantage of. You should never feel guilty taking advantage of the time that you deserve to have for yourself. That's self-nurturing. And again, this was prompted by that message I received that they said they feel like they're being selfish. And I just want you to wash that away, wipe that off your brain, because it's not selfish to be self-nurturing. Just like enforcing your personal boundaries isn't against someone else, it's for you. And self-nurturing behavior and personal boundaries, enforcing those personal boundaries, because they're for you, because they are designed to help you feel safe, comfortable, and happy, at least some sense of any of those things, because that is their purpose, then other people who love you should want you to feel safe, comfortable, and happy. And when you have that kind of mutual desire for the other person, they have a desire for you and you have a desire for them to feel those things and have those things, then that is a recipe for a healthy, satisfying, fulfilling relationship. But my main point, once again, self-nurturing behavior is healthy. It is something that we are all allowed to do and should do because it helps keep us energized. It helps keep the balance in our own lives. And it is up to us to bring the best version of ourselves into a relationship. We're just trying to bring the best version of ourselves into the relationship. And if somebody is in our life not allowing us to be ourselves, not allowing us to be the very best that we can be, at least try to be. We're just trying to be the very best version and trying to improve ourselves. If they take that away, if they pull that from us or they prevent us from pursuing that, then we have to have a real conversation. We have to have maybe a hard conversation. We might have to plan an exit, just like this person wrote. Planning my exit strategy. They said, I want to gather the strength and courage to actually leave. but I get caught up in a loop and taking responsibility for my partner again. That is the overly compassionate loop that we can get into sometimes. We become overly compassionate to someone else, putting us in a deficit of compassion for ourselves. There should be enough compassion to go around, I know, but if you're in compassion deficit, then how much do you have to give? You can't give from a place of deficit, because what you're giving is almost obligatory. It's maybe out of guilt. It's maybe out of fear. There could be a number of reasons why we choose to be overly compassionate to someone else without giving ourselves enough compassion and filling our own cup first. That's important to do. This is all part of self-nurturing, balancing your own life, and giving to you before giving to anyone else. That doesn't mean you exclude other people when you're at a deficit. It just means you make sure that most of the time you are doing the best to nurture yourself. And many emotionally abusive relationships, that doesn't happen. There's always a give and a give and a give and a try more and a try more. And I'll adapt and try more and I'll do this differently. And it creates an imbalance. And that imbalance stays usually at a cost to the person that's overly compassionate, overly giving. And they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing the loving thing. They think this is what they're supposed to do because that person is in their life. They're committed, but they forget about the self-nurturing and filling your own cup first. Just like that overused line, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. It's pretty much how it goes. Because if you don't have enough to give, you'll be giving from a place of lack. You'll be depleting your reserves. I don't want that to happen. And I know people are listening right now saying, oh, honey, they're depleted. This is how it is. This is how I am. This is how my life's been for X number of months or years. I am already there. That's why I'm giving you this message. If you're in that space or if you're heading toward that space where there is an imbalance or deficit in your life, remember, it's okay to self-nurture. In fact, it's required. The body can't go on without sleep. It has to sleep. You can stay up all night, but it's going to be very difficult to not sleep the next night, but the body's going to require it eventually. You can't prevent it. And what we do on an emotional level is we prevent it. Some of us will prevent ourselves from getting that required self-nurturing and self-compassion. And we will continue denying ourselves what we require. You require self-nurturing. You require time to yourself. You require a space to feel comfortable and safe, even just for a few minutes, without the fear or thoughts of somebody else being bothered by it. You require it. It is one of the many things that brings us balance. And if you find yourself worrying or stressed out about what the other person's going to think or say if you do self-nurturing behavior, then A, remind them of the importance that you need time to yourself. And B, if they don't like that or they have fears about it, don't make that, I hate to say this, don't make that your problem. Don't make that your issue, because they need it too for themselves. You need it and they need it. And if you plan on leaving a relationship, they have their own self-nurturing. They have to find their own path. I'm going to assume that everyone listening is an adult. So you have to trust that another adult can take care of themselves when you, as an adult, take care of yourself, because you are not their parent. Unless you're talking about a child here, but I'm not. I'm talking about most people that are in relationships, any kind of relationship, but you should not be someone's parent unless you really are their parent. You should not be mom or dad trying to take care of someone, trying to appease someone, trying to make them feel like you're not going to abandon them. You're not trying to leave them. You're not trying to make life harder for them. It's something that my fiance says to me. She says, you're going to have to put your big boy pants on. She doesn't really say it to me, but she'll talk about other people like that. You got to put your big boy pants on because this is how life goes. Life can throw you curveballs. Life can throw you challenges. And she's right. Sometimes life throws us challenges. We have to grow up and do what we need to do for ourselves. And sometimes we have to do it because other people won't do it for themselves. And I'm not saying you should put your big boy pants on. I'm saying that if you are with somebody who is either trying to parent you or they require parenting from you and constant nurturing and comfort because they have fears and such, then you may not be the person that can help them with that. And often what ends up happening is people that are in that space, the fears that kick in and the triggers that kick in, and you become that nurturing parental type person in their life, it usually doesn't end until they seek help or they read something, they do something about it, they reflect on their own behaviors, they work on themselves. It usually doesn't end because what ends up happening is that they've found a source to help regulate their emotions and help keep them in a space where they don't have to be fearful because they are constantly reassured. And you can get into that constant reassurance space too. Some people require that constant reassurance, or at least they think it's required, when really what needs to happen is they need to work on their self-worth, work on their self-esteem, work on their fears of maybe abandonment or rejection, which is all the stuff that you probably won't be able to help them with. And we can be loving and compassionate to a person like that, and they still can't get over those fears, and they are still triggered, and they still do abusive behaviors. So what we need to do is take care of ourselves and hope they do the same. I hope this episode helps in some way. Thanks for listening, and share this with others who might benefit. Love and Abuse is the official podcast of the Mean Workbook, an assessment and healing guide for difficult relationships. The workbook helps you pinpoint exactly what's going on in your relationship, outlining the behaviors causing you to leave so many interactions feeling bad. Take the assessment in the workbook and gain clarity on what your next best steps are. After you purchase, you'll get an invite to the private peer support group on Facebook. Visit loveandabuse.com for more information. And if you've discovered that you are doing the hurtful behaviors to someone that you care about and you would like to change that about yourself, sign up for the Healed Being program over at healedbeing.com. You can take the course on your own at your own pace or join the optional private online group where I and others will give you direct support. It's time to stop making those you love feel bad. That's healedbeing.com. And if you're looking for a safer way to listen to this show where all the titles to the episodes are changed, click on the Safe Listening button on the podcast page over at loveandabuse.com. This show exists to remind you that you are not alone and you're not going crazy. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You deserve honesty and sincerity. You deserve to be treated as worthy and significant. Because you are. We'll talk again soon.